The radar.
In the midst of brutal summer heat, we are seeing some thunderstorms in some places in upstate New York, and our Joe Rayo will be taking us on a radar tour, not only there, but in and around the Chicago area where we have other thunderstorms of a severe nature moving on through. Summer heat covering much of the middle of the country as well. It's a little tamer in the west. And there are a few places that are going to be dealing with some flooding issues. So we will put this all together and you will all come out very satisfied tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. And if we use that illustrious coupon code,
Summer 2024. Four.
and if you do, you will get
10% off. And that's a deal.
it is.
Yes.
So,
So how was your day?
well, Joe, I'm never one to complain. It was okay. It was one of those days today. I'm usually fairly active in the morning. I get up at 5:30.
Wow.
So by 11 or 12 o'clock, I've got most of what I need to do done, house stuff and that kind of thing, taking care of the dog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and then just in the afternoon, I decided today not to do much of anything. So I just kind of hung around the house and watched a little TV and cooked a little food, walked the dog. That's pretty much the extent of it today.
Today, the extent was just simply cleaning out the house or whatever. After a very busy weekend, we had my grandson christening yesterday, and we had a few people around the house yesterday, last night, and early this morning. My father-in-law.
What?
When he comes to the house.
She's a graduate of the Phoebe Emerson Charm School, right?
Yes. Oh, wait, Joe, before I get into this,
Yes.
I have a problem here.
What's wrong?
Well, normally I use the NCAR real-time weather data to show the radar.
Oh, and
However, they have in bold red letters across the page now.
Joe Rayo, do not use our radars on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Attention. Our server room suffered a breakdown in the cooling system over this past weekend, forcing a shutdown of our radar, satellite, and upper air processing servers. Our facilities department is working feverishly to restore cooling, but we will be down until they can perform repairs. Our apologies for the outage.
Well, apparently feverishly, but not feverishly enough. All right. Well, all right. So, well, you were going to do the radar, so I guess that means
But,
I'll let,
but I could still show something, can I?
yeah, of course you can.
Of
Yeah.
course.
All right. Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure as savvy as you are technology wise, you'll be able to find some substitute radar somewhere.
what I plan to do is I'm going
It's
to show.
you plan to hand draw the radar echoes.
Can you imagine doing that? Trying to hand
No,
draw?
no, I can't actually.
I get the various colors, red, and green, and
And
blue, or
by the
whatever.
time you're done, we'll be doing the Tuesday night Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Exactly,
All right.
exactly. Well,
Well,
see, this certainly is better than nothing, and it certainly does show. Can you see that on the screen
oh
right
yes,
now?
we see it. Sure.
Okay, so here's a close up from the GO 16 satellite, and what you're seeing is the northeast sector showing the area of lightning strikes, and you can see quite plainly enough across the right down the middle of the Empire State, New York State, we have a rather significant line of showers and thunderstorms reaching all the way across into the northern border of Pennsylvania. And they're racing along these showers and storm at a pretty good clip. My presumption is that now, as the sun is approaching its setting, these storms will gradually diminish, but Nonetheless, I think that we may see some the tail end of the shower and thunderstorm activity may make it as far south as, let's say, portions of the Hudson Valley, the lower Hudson Valley, Orange County, Sullivan County, maybe Ulster County too. But you could see that line again moving across rather rapidly central sections of New York State. There's also a cluster of thunderstorm activity which is apparently bearing down on Montreal up in Quebec, Canada, and some scattering of shower and thunderstorm activity also across portions of Quebec and Ontario province. Now, Joe mentioned about the storms that were over the Chicago or near the Chicago area. We could take a look at that right now. But I want to remind you, Joe, that something else is happening, and that is a convention of sorts, a political convention in Milwaukee. Now, here is Chicago, right here where my cursor is pointing. Milwaukee is up here, and it looks like that there's a cluster of rather significant shower and storm activity bearing down on the assembly coming in from the west. So we'll be, I'm sure, especially if you live in the Milwaukee area or attending that convention, you may be looking off to the west and waiting to see whether or not anything of significance is going to happen. There are a couple of spot showers up in the upper peninsula of Michigan and across also portions of central Ohio, moving into eastern Ohio and central sections of Indiana. There are also some showers and storms. I might point out that because the air is rather tepid, rather humid, in fact, quite a bit humid in much of the Northeast and out into the Midwest, that any one of these storms has the ability of being able to bring down a hefty amount of rain in a short interval of time. Case in point, Joe, here in Putnam Valley, we had along about 4 o'clock this afternoon a thunderstorm roll on through here. It wasn't here very long. It was only about 10 or 15 minutes, but when it was all over said and done, we picked up about a half an inch of rain, and it was coming down in cats and dogs. So any one of these storms that you see, any areas of the red here, quite possible to see a rather hefty amount of rain in a short interval of time, along with some strong gusty winds, and who knows, maybe even a little bit of hail as well.
And let's not forget, Joe, frequently dangerous lightning.
Frequently dangerous lightning, yes, or
Uh,
vivid lightning.
all right. Yeah. We've got at the moment, according to Tornado HQ, that fabulous website that has everything all in one place, which is really, really helpful. 28 severe thunderstorm warnings up across the country, 5 tornado warnings, 2 special marine warnings. And if you'd like to, I'm going to break them down by state. 5 in Arizona. They're actually the most active state at the moment. 5 in Arizona, 1 in California, 1 here, Joe, in Georgia, 10 in Iowa, 5 in Illinois. So I take it back. Arizona's not the most active. 10 in Illinois, 5 in Indiana, 2 in Michigan, 1 in North Carolina, 1 in New York, 7 in Pennsylvania, 3 in South Carolina, 1 in Wisconsin, 4 in no, I'm sorry, hold on. 1 in South Carolina, 4 in Wisconsin, and 1 in the state of Wyoming. And since you showed the fabulous satellite loop with the lightning strikes, I'll show everybody what the radar looks like. And what's particularly interesting right now, if you take a look, this might be a derecho that could be forming here, or may have formed. We'll have to see how long this lasts. But there is a cluster of thunderstorms in Iowa, where I just said, as I mentioned, there were how many warnings there were now? And now there are 8. So there were 8 severe thunderstorm warnings, and also we have a 4 flat. Looks like 4 flash flood warnings that are up as well. And that complex is moving to the east into northwestern Illinois and southwestern Wisconsin. Meanwhile, we've got a pretty large severe thunderstorm warning that covers much of northeastern Pennsylvania. So it's probably covering several counties there. And another big one on the other side which includes Binghamton to, well, not quite into Sullivan County yet, and then two others that are to the north. Both those warnings are east of Syracuse. There's also a tornado warning that popped up there. Uh, Let me just take a look at the specifics. Give me a moment here. I'm going to take the screen and go back to uh, Tornado HQ. So we have actually a, there a severe thunderstorm warning now up for Broome, Shenango, Delaware, Madison, Otsego, Sullivan, and Wayne counties in New York and in Pennsylvania. So that's that cluster there that you saw in northeastern Pennsylvania. And in,
It is a
in,
severe thunderstorm watch that's located just a stone's throw to my north, actually. It it starts in Dutchess County. Dutchess County, of course, is the county that immediately borders the northernmost part of Putnam County, where I live. And that particular watch, there's actually two of them that are kind of adjacent to each other, and those watches will be in effect until late into the evening. In fact, the one for Dutchess County is up until midnight. So I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, if that area of thunderstorm or lightning strikes that I showed earlier on the goes. I wouldn't be surprised if along about 10, 11 o'clock tonight I stepped outside and looked north. I probably would see my sky flashing
I would
if
think so.
that area holds together. So
Yeah,
a little bit.
it looks like a fairly vibrant area of thunderstorms. That's running, pretty much right up and down I-81 from from northeast Pennsylvania all the way up to uh, Watertown and to the Canadian border. And then the southern end of that seems to be the stronger part of it, the southern half. And the cells in Pennsylvania look pretty strong there. So yeah, if it holds together, you certainly should see a little bit of a light show, I think.
Well, it's a cheap thrill. There's not much. There's not much on television tonight, so maybe I'll step
No,
out
there
around 10
really
o'clock.
isn't. Oh, this
Uh,
is exciting. It's barely rained here in the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. I think it's rained like twice. I heard thunder, um, some very loud thunder here about 6 o'clock or so, but that's all I heard was thunder. I didn't get any rain out of it. But as we take a look at the radar, there are clusters of thunderstorms throughout the state of Georgia into South Carolina and into southeastern North Carolina, and also down into northern Florida. I don't see anything severe at the moment. So if that severe thunderstorm warning that was up oh, there it is. It's down in South Georgia. Briefly, they had a severe thunderstorm warning in South Georgia, down west of I-75, and fairly south of Macon, I would think. So that's come and gone. And then there's some stronger cells back through parts of Alabama on I-20 east of Birmingham, and also down into the I-85, the connector to I-85. We're seeing some storms there. And in west central Alabama on the I-20 corridor, you got some downpours as you head down into Mississippi. Meanwhile, there are some strong storms on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we have a special marine warning that's up for parts of Lake Superior. This is a quick reminder, folks, if you're watching this on a replay tonight, obviously these satellites and radars we're showing you and the severe weather we're showing you are dated, so be sure to go to weather.gov for the latest weather information in your area. And David Schwartz, thank you very much for putting up some of the warnings that you have been putting up. Um, it's uh, it's great because it keeps us informed, and sometimes when I'm doing so many other things, it's a good way to keep me informed too. We've got clusters of showers and storms in Wyoming and into Colorado, back down into Arizona and Utah, Nevada, and even into parts of the Sierra Nevadas and into Northern California. So a little bit of activity at in the Southwest. And Miss Blue Ocean, it's tornadohq.com. It's very handy. It's pretty much a clearinghouse for all the severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings that go up, and it updates pretty much automatically. If it doesn't do that, you just give it a quick refresh, and you'll get the update. So Welcome to everybody on the chat board. Welcome to those of you who are on the background to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're here most weeks. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. because occasionally we'll take a day off, especially in the summertime when things are can be slow on certain days. But the schedule is Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. Fridays and Saturdays are off days unless there's a storm around. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so this way you don't miss us. Turn your notifications on and be sure if you like the show to hit the like button. So Joe, I just have to what
Sorry, Charlie. But Latex Streams was on the chat board and says, I want Joppy. Well, you can also ask Rayo. He says, I want Joppy to check Bay of Fundy water temperatures. I'd save you that, Joe. I did check. And right now, the Bay of Fundy is at 16.2 Celsius. If you want to make the conversion to Fahrenheit, 61.16 degrees. So that's what the temperature of the Bay of Fundy was as of today, Monday, the 15th of July. We aim to please.
thank you. And it's at least 20 degrees too low for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to tell you, and I've got the watches and warnings map up so you can see there's all these, aside from the severe thunderstorm watches in New York State and northeastern Pennsylvania, you have a whole slew of heat advisories and excessive heat warnings, particularly in New Jersey and into southern Pennsylvania, the southern half of Pennsylvania, down into the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. Um, what struck me today was when I happened to pull up the obs around about 1:30 this afternoon, and I got to tell you, those dew points were insane. They were in New Jersey in particular, where temperatures were in the low to mid 90s, and the dew points were in the middle and even upper 70s. I mean, that has got to be. And you and I have both experienced this. I don't have. It's not happening for me here in North Georgia, but my God, that has got to be so brutally uncomfortable with dew points in the mid to upper 70s and temperatures in the low to mid 90s.
Wow. I don't really understand how people 100 years ago, before Willis Carrier, and we all bow our heads when we hear that name now. Willis Carrier was the guy who invented the air conditioner.
Right.
I don't know what people did without air conditioning. I guess basically what you did was you didn't do anything. You just put up with it until you had a change in the weather or whatever. But I'd go crazy. I'd go crazy with those kind of temperatures and dew points to deal with on a daily basis.
And you only,
Unbelievable.
and you only had a swimming pool if you had money. It's
Well, I'll tell you, we have a swimming pool, and the last few days. I don't go in the pool. As a rule, I'm not a pool person, but Renata does. We had our daughter here this weekend. She went in the pool. Joe, it was like I stuck my hand in. I don't have a thermometer. It felt like a bathtub. The water in that pool felt like bath water. It
right.
was absolutely. And I'm saying to myself, so how are you going to get cool jumping into this? I could just as well jump into my hot tub and get the same kind of
I
effect.
know. Well, I'm an ocean kind of guy when it comes to swimming, and it's got to be warm water. So, I don't go in, the water temperatures have to be at least 80. So, I'm more for going in ocean water in the southern part of the United States than obviously in off the Northeast where it never, except for maybe the parts of the Jersey Shore, for a brief time might get to near 80, but otherwise, no, that's not for me. David Scott just hit the tip jar, Joe, and he thank you for doing that, David. He said down in Atlantic Beach, New York, significant seaweed washing up several days now. Any connection to the current weather pattern? Swimming is impossible. Hmm.
Atlantic
Uh,
Beach, an old stomping ground of mine. My parents were divorced when I was a young boy. My father's side of the family actually lived. David, if you're a resident of Atlantic Beach, you may very well know some of my relatives from Atlantic Beach. They lived on Kings Avenue in Atlantic Beach, and I remember going there many times as a young boy. And my father used to love to uh, fish for striped bass on the jetties that they have there, but and a lot of seaweed. Well,
I
I
mean,
didn't.
you're in a you've got the Bermuda high offshore, but it's been mostly a west, or a southwest wind today. I'm not sure why that would be the case. I don't know. I can't look. I can't say that it's the ocean flow because um, we don't have a southeast or a south-southeast wind. Uh, uh, maybe the fact that we haven't seen a cold front come through here in quite a while, and we've been dealing with mostly onshore, near the coast anyway, mostly sea breezes coming in, persistent south wind is not now, seaweed's not being allowed to clear out. I'm not sure. I think the first big push of northwest winds will probably help to get rid of it, I would think.
I'd say, David, I just you can post this on the chat board. Are starfish still evident at Atlantic Beach? That was one thing I used to like to do with my cousins. We used to go along the beach and pick up starfish and put them in our little pails, our little buckets. I remember, I remember once we had a whole pail of starfish, and then we had to go back to the city real fast, and we forgot to do anything with it. And we came back the following week. You don't even want to know. You don't even want to know what the pail of starfish
Oh
looked like.
God, you murderer, you.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Good
by the way,
memory.
yes, we all have memories like that. We looking at the U.S. satellite loop. I mean, this is kind of like what a July loop should really look like, and you see the disturbance. There's a little upper trough that's moving through upstate New York and Pennsylvania. Then you got another one that's from Lake Superior down into Iowa, and that's producing this, blossoming area of thunderstorms, and maybe that may wind up turning into a derecho. We'll see. And then you start to see these clouds up here near the Canadian border, north of Montana and North Dakota. That's the shortwave trough that's going to swing around and do something later Wednesday or Wednesday night, bringing a cold front into the northeast and mid-Atlantic states. We're seeing for the first time in quite a while, we're seeing some development of clusters of thunderstorms, and we showed you on the radar what's going on in the southeast. It's obviously not raining everywhere, but there are areas where we're seeing some showers and storms. And you see this energy that's kind of loping along here in the Rockies, producing the showers and thunderstorms there and into the southwest, and that extends back down into California. The Storm Prediction Center tonight. This is the severe thunderstorm watch that is up, the new one. And if we take a look, there's actually two. One is getting whittled away slowly. That covers central New York into northern and northeastern Pennsylvania. And then you've got the second one that covers eastern, the upper, middle, and upper Hudson Valley, actually from Dutchess County northward, and also including northwest Connecticut, Litchfield County, and western Massachusetts, right along the Massachusetts-New York state line. Actually, northwest Connecticut is just on the edge of that. It's not quite in it. And if we take a look at the Midwest area, they've got a severe thunderstorm watch and a tornado watch now. And SPC has upgraded this to a moderate risk of severe weather in eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southernmost Wisconsin. The enhanced risk goes a little bit further north to about Milwaukee. Chicago is in the moderate risk. And if we also have a slight risk there in New York, most of New York State and northern and northeastern Pennsylvania, which is playing out with the watches you've seen there. And the tornado risks in that moderate zone, 5 to 10% tornado risk being indicated from eastern Iowa into southwestern Michigan, northwest Ohio, and into northern Indiana and northern Illinois. So Chicago right now, it's sitting with a 10% plus tornado risk and a 45% probability, Joe, of winds, and it's in the hatched area, which indicates a 10% chance of winds gusting 65 knots or greater, and a 45% chance of 50 knots or greater. So very active, severe weather tonight in the Midwest. Now they expanded the severe area for tomorrow. They've got slight risk now, western Vermont, westernmost Massachusetts. down the Hudson Valley to just about to Westchester County, most of northwest New Jersey, actually most of northern New Jersey, all just about all of Pennsylvania, um, western and central Maryland, northernmost Virginia, northern West Virginia, and southeast Ohio. Would you like to opine, Mr. Rayo, on this?
Where?
This is for tomorrow.
Well, I will say, it's interesting that they expanded that. Tomorrow they may make it even more significant. Again, we've got that cold front that's going to break the back of this. Maybe not so much in terms of temperature, but the uh, the dew points, the big dew points, and I'm interested to see whether or not what you're seeing here for tomorrow. That would be for Tuesday into
Right,
12 on Wednesday.
right.
I'm
So
interested.
this is if we look, I'm just going to go flip back to the satellite loop for a moment. So that for tomorrow is probably what you're seeing back here in
Standing
Wisconsin and Iowa,
right.
and that's moving eastward. So that's for tomorrow. So and the cold front for Wednesday is still up, north of the Canadian border, but it'll get down here eventually. Uh,
But they only have for that. That's on day three. They only have a marginal risk.
Right, and that's the forecast that they put out last night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the day three forecast is
Is never up.
rarely up. Yeah, it's almost never updated
Right.
until it gets into the day two time frame.
I
So
have a very good feeling that come tomorrow in that marginal zone, we're going to see an area of slight, which may.
that I agree with. Yes, I agree with that.
But you're right, and that area tomorrow that is going to be practically knocking at our side door here in the tri-state area. That's what's blowing up now over the western end of the Great Lakes. And I'm wondering, I have not looked at any of the coverage, any of the political coverage of this convention that's going on this week. But I'm just wondering whether or not any of the political reporters, especially those stationed outside, may have alluded to the fact that the weather may get a little turbulent, a little
Well,
tempestuous.
I watched a little bit this afternoon, late this afternoon and this evening. I saw some live shots on CNBC from Milwaukee, and there was no mention of the weather. I won't watch the other channels, but I can tell you from what I saw, they didn't say anything there.
You and I have you and we won't get too much into this, but you and I may very well have enduring memories about the excuse me, about the Democratic National Convention that was held in New York in 1992, which you were at News 12 Long Island,
Right.
and somebody else was doing the weather with you at that station. And there was an outbreak of severe weather, thunderstorms, um, downbursts, tornadoes, a tornado warning in parts of New York City. And one of the people who you work with, you know, had to have dinner and walked out. You remember that?
You mean, ladies, now that you've stirred that memory, yes.
Yeah, there was a
I
guy.
was not around to rescue them by
No,
the way.
but you were calling me from your house, and you were getting updates like every 10 minutes from the staff who was feverishly looking for this person to come back so that he could do the cut-ins on the severe weather occurring during the Democratic convention at Madison Square Garden. And in fact, our old friend Scott Feldman, who was more concerned with politics that night, had to immediately stop thinking about politics and started to have to report on the weather because the person who was supposed to do the weather was not there. And you were calling me like every 10 or 15 minutes. I wasn't too acquainted with the, behind the scenes people at News 12 Long Island back then, but you kept telling me that a guy by the name of Cy was was blowing a
Oh,
gasket as to where this person was. And he didn't show
that
up this.
was Cy Kravitz. And for those of you who are know if you're into music, Lenny Kravitz. It was his father. And
Really?
nice, yeah, that was his father. And he was married to Roxy Roper, which, if you remember Roxy Roper, she was the neighbor on the Jeffersons.
Right.
So anyway,
Right.
that's just
Anyway, that
it's
person,
neither here nor there. It's just me, I never waste an opportunity to name drop.
but that person who was gone through that entire, he returned to the station 10 minutes before the 10 o'clock news.
And I was the one that got fired.
Anyway, no, and this memory would not have been triggered were it not for the fact that we have another political convention, and at a stone's throw from that political convention
Right.
tonight, there is a major outbreak of severe weather, and it just reminded me of
Yes, I
something.
know.
That's
It's a wild situation, ladies and gentlemen. Just listen.
32 years ago, and the memory still remains in my. But you were calling it like every 5 or 10. He said, "Oh my God, he still isn't there," and Cy is going crazy.
Too funny. I have no recollection of this. I have a
For
faint
all of
memory
you
of this.
For all of you who have intentions or aspirations, all of you young people who may want to be a TV weathercaster, a meteorologist, and want to do a good job, the one thing I would certainly urge you to do is if there is the slightest risk of a severe weather outbreak in your area during a political convention, do not, repeat, do not go out to dinner. Even if somebody promised you that they would buy the dinner for you for free, and this is what this person used to do. He used to take advantage of
Well,
friends.
you know what?
Buy,
That could never. Yeah, yeah. Used to exactly. Used to mooch. Um, that would today that wouldn't happen because you've got staff, and even if you did go out to dinner, you got your phone in your hand. As long as you're just like near the station, you'd be there back. You could be back in a couple of minutes. It's not a problem.
right.
But anyway, that's another story for another day.
Wait,
Um,
what are you doing? You're calling me? What? Oh, you mean there's going to be thunderstorms?
yes,
You want
ladies and
to come
gentlemen.
back? All right. Well, I'm almost finished with dinner. I'm almost finished. I'll be there in about a half an hour.
I'll be there as soon as I get my dessert. Now don't
Yes,
bother. Now don't bother me.
exactly.
All right, WPC with their rainfall, and I'm really happy to see this, and I hope it comes true. It should come true with this fairly wide area of an inch and a half to 2.5 inches plus across the Gulf states, and some higher amounts in the Eastern Carolinas, where we're talking about the 3 to 5 inches or more. Half to 3/4 of an inch of the Hudson Valley down south through New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, into the Delmarva Peninsula and Virginia. In much of New England, it's more like it's a quarter of an inch or less, except in the western part, except in western New England. We've got some inch and a half plus rains in the uh, in Arkansas, southern Missouri, southern Illinois, Indiana. Some of that's playing out at the moment. Some of that's going to be playing out later in the week. And we've got some hefty rain amounts being indicated for Colorado, particularly southern Colorado, down into New Mexico, and then back over into Arizona. Some areas of 2 to 3 inches plus. So I'm sure they're happy about that. And as far as flash flooding is concerned tonight, we have a moderate risk of flash flooding in northeastern Illinois, including Chicago. So they got the tornado risk at 10%. They got a 40 to 70% probability of flash flooding for Chicago and nearby surrounding areas. So you see the marginal risk goes into western New York. Tomorrow, it's a marginal risk from northern Vermont and upstate New York, southwest through much of Pennsylvania, except the southeast and south central part of the state. And then we've got this large tongue of slight risk from west southwest PA down through the lower Ohio Valley, crossing Missouri and into Kansas and northernmost Oklahoma. And on day three, we've got a marginal risk for southeastern and southern New England, Long Island, eastern Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, going almost all the way up to I 90. It actually goes north of I 90, and then south into Delaware, Maryland, northern Virginia. Slight risk in West Virginia and eastern Kentucky. Slight risk across eastern Oklahoma to western Tennessee. Marginal risk in between that, and a slight risk for flash flooding back in New Mexico and southern Colorado. So really this week, Joe, everything centers this is this is the long-awaited cold front that everybody's hoping that it gets through. And of course, we've got these two disturbances swinging through the east to deal with, the one tonight and then the one tomorrow. And you'll notice, by the way, that the precip is especially heavy in parts of southern Ohio down through southern Indiana, Illinois. You've got sort of a patch that's sitting here in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England tomorrow evening. And then Wednesday, there's that 1024 magical high that's coming down. And the GFS seems to be pretty bullish with showers and thunderstorms later in the day, Wednesday into Wednesday night. And then the question after that is, and it's something I guess we should pay attention to. I mean, this front only, given the time of year and the strength of the Bermuda high offshore, this weather front is only going to be able to get so far south. So, how much improvement is going to occur Thursday? I'm not so sure. Uh, there might be certainly some leftover clouds. I think the dew points will probably respond by dropping, but if you're in southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and point southward, you're probably not going to get much in the way of dew point relief until maybe Friday. Um, I would have liked to have seen this high the way the models were showing it a few days ago, with a stronger push, but doesn't seem to be the case. And then there's another front that moves up into New England over the weekend, and then there's
Yeah, but
another high that settles down.
everything is relative, though, Joe. I mean, as I said yesterday, I mean, even if the dew points and Friday they should drop briefly into the 50s. They may bounce back into the low 60s by Saturday and Sunday. And you say, "Oh God, what kind of relief is that?" Low 60s. Low 60s is like the beginnings of muggy conditions. But when you've been dealing day after day and night after night with dew point temperatures of like 68 to 74, even if it drops down only to the low 60s, that's going to be a bit of a relief. That's going to
Oh,
be
I no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I mean, and today was just, when you're talking about dew points that are sitting at 77 and 78, even if it goes down to 65, it feels better.
right. It's all relative.
Excuse me.
Ken Musillo, Ken Musillo saying that that tonight they're having the stupid home run derby, which I detest the home run derby. It's taken away from the All Star game, and the All Star game, forget about it. I'm not even going to watch that tomorrow. But Ken Musillo saying the young lady who's singing the Star Spangled Banner at the home run derby really botched it. I'd like to know how she botched it. What did she forget? Did she forget the words? Yeah, that's the only way
I
you could.
I have this thing about when they sing the national anthem at these events, and they got it on television, and they got whatever famous person, s- you know, sing it the way it was written. When they start bending notes in excruciating ways, you lose me. It's like, this is not the way. It's the national anthem. It's not about you. That's always been my opinion. It's not about you, the singer. It's the national anthem. So it should be sung. I think it should be sung the way it was written. But there've been a few people who have sung the national anthem that I thought did had done very good jobs. But for the most part, most of the people that sing it just absolutely they mutilate it, and it's a sin in my view.
I am a Met fan. Have been for all of
And
my life.
if you're a Met fan, you've been mutilated for decades, emotionally
The
anyway.
nice thing about the Yankees, and you're just going to sidestep me, the Yankees in the 1960s and 70s played a recording of the late great Bob Merrill, Robert Merrill from the New York, singing the national. In fact, if you go on YouTube after the show tonight, just go on YouTube and type in Robert Merrill, comma, national anthem, and you'll be able to hear that national anthem rendition. That, to me, is the finest rendition of the national anthem
Well,
that I've.
he had an exceptional voice.
Yes,
I mean, he was, he had a great voice.
yes. But that,
Uh,
and somebody brought up Roseanne Barr singing the national anthem. Don't even bring that up.
yeah, that's just, That was garbage. All right, let's do Briller Jeopardy and call it a night. So we're still, Joe, we're still doing foreign cities. So let's do these. We'll start with Paris, France.
Paris, France. Paris, France. Well,
Paris, France. This,
I will say in July,
yes, in July.
I will say 76.
Oh, oh,
Oh, oh, oh.
oh. So close. So close. Carlberg gets it, and so does Michael McGuire and Maggie P. and Carol Takara because they heard me moan. 77, Joe. 77.
77.
WABC. Reykjavik, Iceland.
Oh my God, Reykjavik?
Reykjavik.
Reykjavik. It may not be quite so cold as a lot of people may assume because they are, after all, on an island. They're surrounded by water. That could act as a modifier to a degree. I'll say
It also can keep them from warming up.
I'll say 61.
You know what? That's a fair guess. It's wrong, but it's a fair guess.
Okay.
Um, So let's see what these folks on the chat board. Now, Craig Carlberg, you're a little closer at 59. So the rest of you, if you're already starting putting numbers up like 68, 69, and 70, not 78, Anthony, unless you're still doing Paris. We're doing Reykjavik, Iceland. 68 from Frank Scalera is too high.
Yes.
Too high. Tyler Fienga is in Snake Country. 55, and Michael McGuire is in Snake Country at 57, which means
Patrick
Patrick
Darcy.
Darcy at 56 as the correct answer. 56. Okay, Rome, Rome, Italy.
Hmm. I'll say blah 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 blah. I'll say 83.
Um, it's too low.
Too
Too
low.
low. Rich Rothmansky bangs it out at 89. 89.
Rome 89 in
Yeah,
July.
and I have to tell you, I was in Rome in August. One summer, it was brutal. I mean, it was a dry heat, but to be out walking around it in the afternoon, oh my God, was it horrible. It was so hot. Stockholm, Sweden.
Stockholm, Sweden.
Sweden, yes. It come from Stockholm in Sweden.
How about what did we say for Iceland?
Reykjavik was 56.
Hmm. I think
Mm.
they'd be in Stockholm. I'll say 63.
You're way too low. But we've got a few people that have hit it on the nose. Michael McGuire, Tyler Fienga, Thank Kimball, and they hit it at 71. 71 for Stockholm, Sweden. And the last one tonight is Warsaw, Poland. Warsaw, Poland.
How about 80?
That's way too high. Way too high. Vincent Croce at 78 and Tyler Fienga at 77. Those are too high, but Rich Rothmansky bangs it out again. I knows his weather. 74. Ken Musillo, William Uber, Frank R. All experts on meteorology in Poland, Joe. They all got it at 74.
Somebody said, "Where's latex streams? Where's Chiapi?" You're right there.
He's,
You're right over there.
God knows what he's doing. Actually, I think I know what he's doing, but we're a family show. And oh God. Anyway, by the way, I don't know why, but I don't know if you scroll on Facebook, I imagine you don't use your phone very much.
My iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it rings,
I mean, do you scroll Facebook on there?
I look at my I look at Facebook occasionally. Yeah,
Okay. No, because I get, sometimes I scroll through Reels, and yesterday I was getting clips from I was I was getting all the clips from the I Love Lucy episode, which the one of my favorites, which is when they're in Albuquerque,
yeah.
and with Ethel May Potter, we never forgot her.
And Fred walking with the palm
With
tree.
right, that kept getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that. I was I spent half of the evening last night after the show was over just sitting watching clip after clip. Put on the skillet, put on the lead.
Now here's trivia. What is the opera? The name of the opera she sings after
Oh,
she.
my hero from the Chocolate Soldier. You see, I if I went on a game show, they would never ask that question. And I would bet money that hardly anybody knows the answer to that question if asked.
Yes. I like last night. One of the episodes of Dick Van Dyke was one of my favorite episodes. Couldn't watch it because again, my father-in-law was here last night. One of the rare times that he came over.
Yeah, you didn't
Slept
finish
over.
that story that you were about to start at the beginning of the
Well, I
show.
mean, we all
Wait,
everybody.
before you do, is Mrs. Rayo? She's not on the chat board. Just want to check.
No, even if she was, I'd say at 10 minutes to 11, everybody had to go to sleep. And I have trouble going to sleep that early because I usually sometimes I'll be down here to 1 in the morning typing out an article or something. So and like this morning it was like 7 or 7:30. My father-in-law is like singing loudly. My wife, immediately bounced out of bed or whatever like that to see what was going on or whatever. But he's saying, and it kind of reminded me of that episode with Tennessee Ernie Ford when he
All
sang
right,
War.
yes. Wabash Cannonball.
Remember that? He woke up the
Yes.
whole house, and probably the whole apartment too.
Oh God. Oh, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Get it and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code.
A summer 2024,
If you do, you will get.
10% off.
And we should say, okay, it was David Scott hitting super chat tonight. Thank you for hitting the tip jar. And thank
Oh,
you to every.
Tom Contino. First of all, my father-in-law is like 86 years old. He can hardly walk. He has trouble walking. He needs to be assisted around the house. So my wife, being the good host, figures, well, he needs his sleep. So it is she who tells me, look, we can't disturb him. We cannot, which is why we go to bed and everything. So it's not him who's ordering us that everybody has to go to bed. It's my lovely wife. But the thing is, we all go to bed. I said, oh, we have to be absolutely quiet too. Don't wake him up. And meanwhile, this morning, like la la la, it's like what? What the hell?
Well, maybe he was singing My Hero from the Chocolate Soldier. Come, come, come at you. Oh, have you ever seen it? Have you ever gone to an opera?
I have seen. I have not gone to an opera. I've gone to a ballet. I went to um, what's the one with the Swan Lake?
Okay.
Um,
Do they all die at the end?
Something like that.
Yeah. I went to an opera at the Lincoln Center once. It was an interesting experience, but they don't use microphones. So depending on where you're sitting, you sort of hear it, but you don't understand what they're saying, you know? So I just did not, and I'm watching other people around me they're just guffawing over this opera. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. And we also, by the way, should thank Tom Contino from taking the time out from the Republican National Convention to show up tonight on the chat board.
Yes.
Because I would have thought that tonight you wouldn't be here. But I guess, we must rank if you're watching us instead of them. Okay, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7:35. Night night.
Good night.